Welcome to the GT3 series presented by Idea Television and Lufteknic. It has been a year since we took delivery of our GT3 and now it's time for the annual service, which, like every service, requires a lot of attention, particularly in one aspect. Robert Overholser will run us through the whole service, but let's start with that aspect. On the GT3, sometimes you get low oil level, high oil level, and really you don't know if anything changed and if any amount of oil was consumed or if you need any more. Why is the sensing of the level of oil so different on the GT3?
The new GT3 is something that's very particular on just about every element, and we've figured that out just from our exposure and experience with the car, and the oil level is very, very delicate. So essentially how it works is it's in a calculated formula, or it's got some logic to it. So over a period of miles, it's calculating an engine temperature, how the car is being used, what the oil level is.
The old habit of just checking the oil at engine operating temperature, seeing where you are, if you need a little more or not, that doesn't work.
Not completely. And it's something where that premise is still there, and that's essentially when the oil level is measured accurately and you understand how it's supposed to be. But when we saw a cross-section of the actual oil tank and the level sensor at the GT3 Thank You event, we had a technical guy that was there that was talking with owners of cars. And one of the things that came up was the oil level and the oil level light. And it's, you know, what's too dangerous to drive on? How much do I need to be paying attention to this, that, and the other? And it's very, very sensitive. But that's when he informed us that as soon as you open the deck lid on the car, that's what resets the parameters.
Every time you open the deck lid?
Yeah, and I think that's what's also caused some of the confusion is it's been, hey, my oil level's fine. I've been driving the car for a week and now it's telling me it's too high. How is that possible? And I haven't done anything different. You know, nobody knew that this was going on when in fact they were changing how the car is actually computing some of that. And we don't have a dipstick. You know, we're only going by the digital information that comes on the dashboard.
So what is the logic for the GT3 owner in terms of oil change, oil level monitoring?
Most people that are buying these cars and own a 991 GT3 have previous Porsche experience. So we're already pre-programmed to we need to pay attention to this. So then it's turned into this hypersensitivity towards it because we're trying to figure out how it works.
In a way, you're saying mess less with the car. Just drive it.
Absolutely, and it's been something that even on the servicing parameters with all of these new vehicles, it's not as evasive as it used to be. You know, going back to an old air-cooled 911, you're doing valve adjustments, you're checking this, you're making timing adjustments, you were very involved with the tuning of the car. With something like this, everything's done. There is no more to really be gained out of a few things. So it's, from that perspective, enjoy it for what it is, and it's a phenomenal piece.
Please tell me how you're going to do the annual service on the GT3 step by step.
For this car, it's actually a very basic service. You know, there's a couple things that are unique to the GT3, and one of which is the spark plug change. And it's done at 12,000 miles. So for this car, it's a little bit more sensitive to some of the basics, I would say.
So, oil, spark plugs, flush the brake fluid, what else?
We're going to be replacing the cabin filters on 991s. There's actually 2, and a lot of things that I just refer to as common sense maintenance.
Now, step by step, let's see the yearly service on the Porsche GT3.
Our first step in our annual service is going to be the oil and filter change. And the first thing that you're going to do as part of that is going to be taking the rear shield that covers the entire engine area out, and then we'll get access to the drain plug as well as the oil filter. For this procedure, the couple of tools that are needed are going to be a T27 Torx, as well as the cast aluminum oil filter wrench, which is very important for not marring the outer surface of the oil filter when you install it, as well as some appropriate vessel for collecting the used engine oil. Our next step in the service interval is going to be the actual spark plug change. This is done every 12,000 miles on the 991 GT3. Anybody that's going to be working on any of these modern cars is going to need to have a variety of male and female Torx. And then also the new spark plug socket, which is a 12-point 14-millimeter socket. Our next step in the service interval is going to be the brake fluid flush, and this is actually where we go from caliper to caliper on the car, bleeding the fluid through, so we're going to get actually fresh fluid by way of our pressure bleeder. We've completed the brake fluid flush on this car, And one important last step with that is to make sure that you pump the brake pedal with your foot a few times to be sure that you've actually got pedal feel back to where you remember before any brake service was performed. One of the last tasks is the cabin filter replacement, one on the front cowl and one underneath the dash. One of the unique features of the 991 GT3, as well as the turbo model of the 991, is rear wheel steering. And on the street, this allows the driver to have a sensation of driving a much smaller automobile than it really is. Porsche has said you can't use slicks on these cars, you have to use the tires that it came equipped with. And one of the things that we're going to be experimenting with in our next video is actually going to be removing the rear wheel steering to allow us to actually install slicks on the car.